The 1973 Kawasaki Z1. Kawasaki Heavy Industries, Limited, made an indelible mark on the world motorcycle scene back in 1972 with the unveiling of its 1973 Z1 model. The Z1 broke new ground as the first Japanese bike with a transverse-mount 4-banger, and it's widely recognized as the island nation's first literbike with a 903cc engine and thrilling performance for everyday riders. Kawasaki Z1 history. The motorcycle field at the time had been shaped, first by Honda's 1968 CB750, then by Kawi's own two-cycle triple, the renowned Mach 3, in 1969. Those two bikes set the stage for the emergence of the Z1. This heralded the age of the Universal Japanese Motorcycle (UJM) and also marked the potential competition that the burgeoning Japanese motorcycle market would pose to the status quo. American and European manufacturers were all well established, but the Z1 would represent a very real threat from the East, mainly due to its 900 Super 4 engine and affordable price tag. Originally, the engine was slated to be smaller, but Honda's dream pressured upstart manufacturer Kawasaki to punch out the engine and up the displacement and performance. While the public release of the Z1 was a momentous occasion, the bike had spent the previous racing season proving itself with a pair of world records at the Daytona track for endurance. It has long been said that if you want to sell bikes, you have to win races, and that certainly held true for Kawasaki's Z1 back in the early 70s. Kawasaki Z1 design. Folks, the Z1 is the quintessential UJM cruiser with a full cradle frame and transverse, 4-stroke, 4-banger engine. Chrome and polished aluminum feature prominently across the design, starting with the bright steel in the laced rims and chrome front fender that rides between polished fork sliders and chrome inner fork tubes. The hard and shiny finish continues into the triple tree and Cyclops headlight housing with a chrome handlebar to finish out the front end. The round mirrors, along with their standoffs, provide a bit of contrast with a blackout paint job. A 4-gallon teardrop tank establishes a gentle drop in the flyline to the pattern-stitched bench seat. Stock passenger foot pegs and a grab strap join with a chrome JC rail to complete the pillion's accommodations. A straight rear fender carries the taillight and plateholder underneath, and the latter doubles as a mudguard extension to contain the spray from the rear hoop. Mid-mount foot controls and mid-rise handlebars put the pilot in a comfortable upright riding position, another endearing hallmark of the UJM genre. While the marque has recently released a tribute bike, the Z900RS, it departed from the original with widespread blackout paint in the place of chrome, and modern inverted forks ahead of a liquid-cooled engine. The sheet metal and profile, however, are very similar to the original. Kawasaki Z1 chassis. Tubular steel members make up the full duplex, double downtube, double cradle frame with a yoke-style swingarm to finish off the main structure. As was typical for the time, the front forks are right way up and non-adjustable, and the dual coil-over shocks out back have the obligatory spring preload adjustment as the only suspension adjustment. At 59 inches long, the wheelbase places the Z1 in the full-size cruiser subcategory. Laced wheels round out the rolling chassis, and while the stock machine rolled with a 290 mm hydraulic disc brake up front and a 200 mm drum out back, a second disc and caliper combo was available as an accessory item. Compare that to the all-around disc brakes, stock dual front discs, and ABS feature on the modern version, as well as the inverted forks and hidden rear monoshock. Kawasaki Z1 drivetrain. Originally, the Z1 was to have a 750cc mill, but Honda's CB750 forced Kawi to make some adjustments. In the end, the air-cooled engine wound up with both a 66 mm bore and stroke for a square layout and a 903.2cc total displacement. It rolled with both a kicker and push-button starter. Babbitt plain bearings supported the overhead cams while roller bearings were used in the bottom end as the latter were considered superior for the high loads on the crankshaft. A bank of 4 carburetors controlled the induction, which made it more difficult to tune than the American and British twins, but that's the trade-off for the power that the inline 4 brought to the table. What kind of power? Well, the mill produced 81 horsepower at 8,500 revolutions per minute backed up by 54.2 pound-feet of torque. A 5-speed transmission and chain-type final drive turned out a top speed in the 130 to 132 mph range. This made it faster than its Occidental counterparts, which is yet another factor that endeared the Z1 to the masses and helped to catapult Japan into the frontrunners of worldwide motorcycle performance, a position it still enjoys to this day. The modern-day Tribute is understandably more modern with a 948cc engine, slipper-style clutch and traction control, plus it's a bit gruntier with a claimed 72.3 pound-feet of torque at 6,500 revolutions per minute. Kawasaki Z1 pricing. The 1973 Z1 originally rolled for $1,895 in the U.S. market, which placed it decidedly on the affordable end of the spectrum, especially compared to the Harley-Davidson Sportster and MV Agusta twins of the era. Kawasaki Z1 competitors. Honda's CB750 is one of the most obvious competitors, in both design and proximity, but the world stage was awash with comparable bikes. The Brits, Triumph, Norton, and BSA, had models in the 750cc bracket, though they were of the parallel twin variety that was common at the time. Harley-Davidson's Sportster ran a V-twin, of course it did since it came from the Moco in Milwaukee, but the 1000cc Sporties couldn't match the horsepower from the inline-4. Torque, however, was a different story, but that's to be expected from a V-twin. MV Agusta had transverse 4-banger too, but priced at $5,000. In 1973, it was a premium machine that would appeal to only the most well-heeled rider base, whereas the Kawasaki was priced more for the everyrider. He said. Definitely a significant model in the evolution of motorbikes, and the company as a whole. This attractive sled would also be used as a platform for homemade café racers to further endear itself to Western riders and the Japanese buyers alike. It evokes a certain sense of nostalgia in me, 'cause when I was a young lad this is what a Japanese motorcycle looked like, so if you're wondering if I'd ride it, the answer is, hell yeah. She said. My wife and fellow motorcycle rider, Alan Hinton, says, when the Kawasaki Z1 was released in the US, it quickly became a legend in its own time. It was faster and so much sexier than anything else out there. Every hourly speed record in the US was smashed by the Z1, so it instantly became entrenched in our bike culture. The modern Z900 is a fitting tribute to its early ancestor in looks and performance. Kawasaki Z1 specifications.
If you liked this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.